Arfield. What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. It's on the outside. Decent.
He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly. Finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper!
Burnley won it to the end! That is magnificent! They deserve that!
Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it! Hat-trick for Nathan Teller! Oh, he's on fire at the minute! 3-0 Burnley! It's Nathan Teller's day!
And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby. Here's Benson. And he's on the outside. Comes inside. Comes up a shot.
Oh, what a goal! Manuel Benson once more! That is top class!
Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everyone and welcome along to the latest instalment of the TurfCast podcast. Full-time show after Burnley. Dispatch of Watford, a dominant performance, especially in the first 80 minutes, I'd say, to be fair, against Watford. A much improved Burnley and some very, 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 very good performances from individuals, which we will get into as the show goes on. But yes, 3 points for Burnley. The Clarets sting the Hornets, and it's looking like the top 3, top 4 are starting to pull away. A lot of people in these comments and on the Burnley socials and stuff like that were constantly saying that Burnley are a mid-table team. Well, it's Christmas, or it will be in 2 days, and Burnley will be third at Christmas, just 4 points off top. Who we play next, so we could be 1 point off top come at the end of the Boxing Day fixtures. But as usual, I am joined by the lads, and I'm buzzing to say we've got a full house. We've got Sam, Andrew, and Chris. How are you all doing, boys?
Cool. Absolutely cool.
Happy days, lads. Happy days. I've got my brew. I'm ready to let you guys all do the talking. I've been at work all day and I'm back in tomorrow. But it's good to have you all back anyway, guys. But we'll start as usual, like we always do. Just quickly going through some of the comments. Scott O'Sullivan says, evening all. But Andrew enjoyed that weather on Saturday. And he's put that 3 times, Andrew, just in case we didn't see it the first time. But Andrew, did you enjoy that weather, mate?
I didn't give a shit about it. It was a good game, weren't it? So, but it added to it, didn't it? It added to the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, to be fair, you made that rod for your own back when you were going on about the weather that time, but that was pretty funny. Claret Blue 1882 says, evening, Clarets. Evening, Claret. Hope you're well, mate. Claret Al, another Claret, says, evening, Clarets. Evening, Claret. This one made me laugh as well during the while we were waiting. Make sure Andrew has his router wound up to give the full internet bandwidth. Funnily enough, we were saying this because Andrew were last on. We're all saying, I bet he's just winding the router up or getting his dial up sorted. Is your internet okay today, mate? How's it doing?
Seems all right, but
it does seem all right, mate. It seems all right. It'll just go eventually. Ginger Ali says, greetings. Even you must have been happy with that yesterday, Ginger. I know you like a whinge, mate. All good fun, but let me know what you thought about that game yesterday, mate. I'm sure even you liked it. Leo's in the chat. Good evening, Leo, mate. John's in the chat. He says Hannibal quite a lot. We will get on to Hannibal, of course. We'll get on to Brown and Lancullen as well because there were some good performances. Andy Duckworth says, we found the formula. Lauren and Hannibal in. Bring on Chef. Fanciers. Get in there. Peter Astin says, Merry Christmas to you all. Merry Christmas, Peter. Hope you have a good one as well. Sam, get your disco lights on, says Claret and Blue. Jacob Reese Dog says, looks like the 3 Christmas ghosts and Scrooge are in. I'm not going to ask which one's Scrooge because it's probably going to be... it's going to be me in it, yeah. Harry says, weather update, Andrew. We'll leave that weather stuff for later. Andrew says, not that Andrew, the other Andrew Turmo. Hi, all, what a win. And not just the 3 points, but the way we earned it. Yep, exactly. After Blackburn, Burnley and Watford, after Blackburn, Burnley only have Watford, Swansea and QPR to play away from home out of the top 15. That's a nice little stat. Ginger Alley's laughing. Let me know your thoughts, Ginger. Come on. Yeah, I'm sure you can write something positive this week. I'm sure you can. And Ashley Barnes, the Ashley Barnes is in the chat. If you're watching on the podcast, it's not the listening on the podcast. It's obviously not the Ashley Barnes. But yeah, shout out to Ashley Barnes on YouTube. Sam, I'll come to you first. Then your thoughts on the game, please, because there were a few raised eyebrows, even from some of us in the TurfCast WhatsApp group. To be fair, I think we're all discussing like, where's Hannibal going to play? He can't be out on the left, surely. There's too many midfielders and not enough on the bench. Like, what we're going to do? But obviously, best performance of the season, bar the first two, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think it just shows what happens when you put Josh Laurent in the team, in my opinion, because again, he was just steady away again, as he always is. But I definitely think Hannibal suited that game so well because they didn't want the ball in that game. They didn't want to be brave. They didn't want to have the ball and try and run at Burnley. And what Hannibal does to you is he forces you to make a quick decision because he's in your face all the time. He suited that game perfectly. I just think it was a good performance all around. I mean, I think it's one of those ones where you have to, say testament again to Scott Parker because he's making us a very, very, very difficult team to beat. But we are now starting to tick as an attacking outlet. I mean, that second goal was absolutely brilliant.
Literally Barcelona.
Yeah,
literally was.
Liquid football.
That's what I'd say on Twitter.
It's liquid football. And even the first goal, to be fair, I mean, it's well worked. I mean, it's a ball through from a defender, skipping, the entire attack and midfield of Watford, and it's 3 passes and we've scored. Like it's a fantastic goal. It's a great performance. It's what we've been waiting for, is that kind of dominant performance. Of course, also to caveat that, we could have had more goals, but at the same time, this season is a long season. You've got a lot of games to play, and if you can come out against a team that were they in 5th place when we started the
7th, I think.
Were they 7th? So they're in and around the playoffs, aren't they? So you know what I mean. It's a good win all round. It puts us in good stead for when we play Sheffield United and Middlesbrough and all these difficult teams that we've got coming up. This puts us in a good position for those games. You go into it feeling a lot more confident. But for me, it was the formation and the way that he used that team was perfect for that game. And like I say, I think that you have to give a lot of credit to Scott Parker because I think he's finally finding his best 11. But I also like this tactician side of him as well, where he's able to still pick up results and chop and change the team a little bit. We have got a big squad of players that you can't always, we've all said it before. It is a hard thing to do. Is pick a Burnley 11 at the moment because there's so many players you could chuck in there. But for the minute, 9 undefeated. I'm very pleased with where we are. So yeah, really pleased.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed it, didn't we? I can't remember if you were on the show or not, Sam. I think you were the last time out, where we were like, what do we do about this midfield conundrum? We've got all these players and we don't really know where to fit them in. Scott Parker just thought, well, sod it, I'll just chuck all of them in. We were thinking, you've got to drop some players. You can't just have like 6 or 7 midfielders on the pitch. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. But it just worked, didn't it? And yeah, I do agree. I think Lauren, again, is the unsung hero because there's players that did have better performances than him. But once again, we just look better with him in the middle. Just some of the comments coming in as well. I'll just come to you, Chris, in a minute. But just a comment that I did see earlier. This one from Lee says, how did we look better without Sarmiento? Which, again, I think he recently has been our most creative player. But yesterday, we just did seem to look better. And it's going to be difficult for him and Koleosho to find a place back in the starting 11 now. Obviously, well, that's a good headache to have, obviously. But yeah, Chris, your thoughts on that game, please, then, mate. Obviously, Burnley were fantastic yesterday. We'll come on to individuals slightly because I know some people in the comments might push you on for a certain somebody, but we'll get onto that later. But yeah, your thoughts on that game, please, mate.
Yeah, I just pretty much agree with everything Sam said. It was just we were dominant for probably 80 minutes. The goal changed the game a little bit, where they had to come out and we were probably on the back foot for a little bit, but they never looked like equalising, did they? Like Sam said, he got it spot on. I think I said before the game on Twitter, like a lot of people were moaning about the team, but like he's still trying to find that formula that works, and that's why he's chopping, changing, because he doesn't know. And if you don't try, you'll never find out. And I think he tried something different yesterday, and it did work. Like Whether that was something he individualised for that game, like we'll find out on Thursday. But yesterday it worked, and to me, he's got to sort of stick with like that winning formula now. He's almost got a tendency sometimes to try things and then like change it too often. Like if you found something that works, stick with it. That midfield three yesterday won us the game. The three of them were like fantastic together. Like that's got to stay as it is now. And I know there'll be a lot of clamour for Sarmiento to come back in and Fleming to play at 10, but like them three now stay as they are. Like they won you the game yesterday. That stays as it is first and foremost, and then we build like round that. If your spine of your team is consistent, that's what wins your titles and gets you promoted. We've got the two centre halves, we've got the keeper, the midfield three yesterday were good. If we could get that striker, we'll be well placed. Yesterday there was a lot of balls into the box, and you're thinking like, oh God, if we had a striker there across the face of centre half, we're in. But like the spine of the team was good. I don't want to go like too much into it because you're going to go on to individuals, but couldn't ask for much more yesterday. I don't think they're still a good side. Like if you look at their team on paper, they've got a lot of good players. Like, and I know Sissoko's finished in that, but like that Chak the Tadzi, they're a good team. They're a very good team. So to dominate that for 80 minutes like we did, that's very good.
Just to point out that was Watford's first defeat in 7 yesterday. Just to back up your point there, Chris. Obviously, they are a good seed, and good side, and that's where they are in the league. Just some more comments coming in. Stuart Rose, I just had his comment on screen, but I've lost it now. There it is. Would anyone have thought after seeing that lineup we would have performed as we did? We'll just saying that work we made a lot of raised eyebrows at the time, especially with Hannibal out wide. But he was absolutely fantastic. Again, we'll get into individuals in a bit. Simon Harvey says, good evening, boys. So happy with that win yesterday. Bringing Loren and Hannibal in was a master stroke from Parker. 2 fantastic goals and overall brilliant performance from everyone. Rob Duckworth says, just running along the marathon nicely. We have depth. Just stay with Leeds and let the pressure do the job on their last 8 games. Sheffield United can't fight their way through every game. We are on course. Scott O'Sullivan says we found our best midfield formation selection, which is basically all of them. And I agree with that. I think yesterday proved that. Cullen yesterday's man of the match, says John. Obviously, we'll get into man of the matches later on. John Robertson's having a whinge about the spot on the hard time entertainment, which I've seen that whinge on the Clarets Mad Mate and on Twitter from you. So we'll leave it there. Anthony's best game for Burnley, says John, though, probably, mate. I thought he was decent yesterday. Leo says the back line is just ridiculous. Also, 9 goals conceded, mental. Yeah, I think that goes unnoticed because of how good it's been all season, so we don't really talk about it. But again, another good performance. Another goal conceded, but not really much you could have done with it. Probably the header that fell to the Watford player could have been a little bit better, but again, that's probably just being a little bit harsh. Sunderland are going to fade away, in my opinion, says Ginger Ali. I agree with that. I've been saying it for a while. But they do have some real quality to be fair to Sunderland, so we'll see what happens. And Andrew Turnbull says it better be worth it. I'm missing Antiques Roadshow. Antiques Roadshow surely is not on at this time, mate. You should be watching the darts, if anything, if you're not watching TurfCast, obviously. But just before I come to Andrew, I think for me, best performance of the season so far. Again, I like to caveat that by saying I don't include the Luton and the Cardiff games in that, just because it was a different team. But yeah, the best performance of the season so far. I was one of the ones in the TurfCast WhatsApp chat saying Hannibal's surely not out. I think you said it, didn't you, Chris? That Hannibal's going to be wide left, and I put surely not. And you're like, I've just watched him warming up. It looks like he's going to be in that position. And I was thinking, how's he going to work out there? But Hannibal was fantastic. He was brilliant. I thought the entire midfield was brilliant. I thought Brownhill and Cullen and Hannibal were all fantastic, and Loren or Josh Laurent, as the guy on the turf says, he just dragged us up the pitch as he always does. The midfield just looks better with him in it. Fleming did what he could, again, playing out of position, but I still thought he led the line relatively well. Did look lost at times, but again, that's not his fault. He's not a number 9. And I do agree with Chris. I know some people are saying like we're not creating enough chances for a striker, but the amount of times that we put a ball in or we got into their box and just didn't know what to do, just didn't make the right decision. That obviously doesn't come up on the stats or the XG or the chance creation stats or big chances. But there were at least 3 times where we got into the box and we just didn't know what to do. If we have a striker and that gets to a striker, or a striker is making a run and dragging defenders out, that doesn't happen. We're more likely to make the right decision in them moments. But again, Trafford excellent as well. I know I've put a post up about him, but I thought he was fantastic. He's going unnoticed as well because he's been class all season, so people aren't really talking about him. But another great performance for him. Where does this leave Foster? Says Jamie Brown. Would you put him back in the 11? Yes, because we don't have a striker. But then who do you drop? Are you dropping Hannibal straight? Not Hannibal, sorry. Fleming straight out the side. Are you dropping Brownhill? Are you dropping Hannibal and tweaking things around? But I think you've got to have Foster in the side. Hopefully back for Boxing Day. Yeah, Andrew, we'll come to you next, please, then, mate. Your thoughts on yesterday's win and the performance, please, mate.
Yeah, really, really good. Not much more than you guys can say, really. I thought it were absolutely brilliant. I know we said that we were completely dominant for the first 80 minutes, but like the first 5 minutes, it looked like they were going to get in there. You know, that Watford looked good, and then we managed to get a foothold of the game, and then we were just completely dominant, weren't we? And from that moment, like, we were just brilliant. And the only time they looked like scoring was after they'd scored, and even then, it didn't really look like they were going to get an equaliser. But defence, absolutely fantastic once again. Midfield, can't say anymore. And I honestly thought Fleming's best game as well.
Yeah, I thought Fleming played well for the position that he's in. If you can hear some sniggers, if you're listening on the podcast, it's from this comment from MC. You should go to Andrew first. The hamsters on his wheel will be tiring now. That tickled Sam and Chris, to be fair. Stuart Rhodes came in with save the hamsters. Andrew, you're going to have to turn up one week with like the best internet ever, just like 500 meg speed and just being proper clear crisp HD to get rid of that. Paul Booth's carrying it along. He says someone should call the RSPCA. So yeah, and Andrew's in for it again today. To be fair, your internet's not that bad today. To be fair, it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, I do agree. In fact, I forgot to mention that. I do agree. I feel like we were dominant for 80 minutes, and yes, they scored. Somewhat fortuitously, a decent finish, to be fair, but it's just come from a corner. I think if it weren't for it should never have been a corner, by the way, because Fleming was 100% fouled. It was a WWE move right in front of the referee. All right, it then does go out for a corner 10 seconds after that, but it was never a corner. And then after that, I thought that after they'd scored, should I say, then I thought that it wasn't that Watford were the better side. It just became scrappy, and Burnley couldn't really put their authority back onto it. But yeah, I do agree with that. I thought we were absolutely dominant for 80 minutes. We'll move the conversation on. I want to come on to individuals, and I don't know if Chris's biggest fan, Bob Devine, is in the chat. Every time Hannibal has an half-decent performance, he tags Chris. He even blocked Chris after Chris's rant on Hannibal a couple of weeks ago. Shout out to Bob if you're in the chat or if you're listening at a later time. I think he's unblocked you because I did see him tag you in a post yesterday. I was going to comment on it saying, "Oh, good to see you unblocked him, Bob." I thought I won't stoke the fire, but I'm obviously going to come on to Hannibal. We'll get on to man of the matches and stuff later. But I thought he was absolutely fantastic yesterday. It might be his best position out there. I am quickly going to bring in something as well, Chris, that you sent me into the WhatsApp group, and that is the average positions of the players. I say I'm going to do it. I've not actually brought it in. There it is. And you put this point in about Brownhill, didn't you? Obviously, Brownhill being number 8. You can see how far forward he is there. But just look how further forward these players are than some of the earlier games in the season. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it. I could have created one from an early game of the season, to caveat that. And I might quickly do that as Chris is talking. But yeah, Hannibal were fantastic yesterday, weren't he, mate? An absolutely brilliant performance. And again, I was surprised, not because I don't think he's good enough, just because he was playing on the left wide forward position.
Yeah, I think of like the 11 players yesterday, I think I would probably have took Hannibal off at half time. I think he had him there, but that's just my opinion. So, but no, listen, I think everyone in here knows. Like I've not been Hannibal's biggest fan, but yesterday he was very good. As Sam said, it was a game that suited him. Hannibal's best attributes are off the ball. I still think yesterday there was he's playing out wide. He's not a winger. I think that's abundantly clear for everyone. There was a few times yesterday where he gets the ball, picks it up, and you think, God, if that was Sarmiento here now, like someone, just someone who could make something happen a bit more than he could.
Yeah.
Like we perhaps could have opened a few different doors, but that's just me like nitpicking. You can't pick many holes in his game yesterday. He was brilliant, winning the ball back. Like,
Bob's here.
He's here now. Yeah. I'll have to watch what I'm saying now. But yeah, he was great. Listen, like I said, off the ball's his best attributes. But yesterday on it, he was great picking up them half spaces between the lines. Like he got us moving, he got in behind nice. And I think he set up the second goal as well, didn't he? Nice. And I know
He did.
People say, it's only a quick layoff, but it's just that it's that awareness to just know it's coming, and then you've got to,
isn't it?
Yeah, just to set it off, wait and pass. Like he did well yesterday, and listen, is he going to be a left winger all season? I think everyone's going to say he's probably not going to be, but he is at Sheffield because he's earned his place. So
yeah,
I've probably slagged him off a bit this season, but yesterday he was great. So that's how it is.
Yeah, no, to be fair, I know there's some people that can't admit when someone's had a good game. I bet that particular person isn't in the chat today when we talk about Brownhill later, but we'll see. So full respect to you for doing that. 1 assist, 1 key pass for the first goal, says Andy Duckworth, obviously talking about Hannibal. Scott O'Sullivan does say, though, Hannibal gives the ball away too much. There were a couple of instances about it yesterday, and I did reference earlier about players not making the right decision when getting in the penalty box. I think Hannibal did that twice, but again, not really criticising it too much for me. I agree, Chris. Hannibal is shy, says Clarets weighted 82. Well, he definitely wasn't yesterday. I don't have his second.
I'll let Bob Divine hear you say that.
Yeah. Don't drop your Twitter handle because Bob will block you. Yeah, I'll come to you then, Sam. Your thoughts on Hannibal and his performance yesterday, please, mate.
Yeah, mate. Just to go back to what Chris said as well. Like he is absolutely rubbish. He adds nothing to the team. No, genuinely, like the bloke. Like I say, Chris is right as well. His best attribute is off the ball. But then when it comes to his ability on the ball, you can see that he has played and been part of an academy for a top team, because that's where that awareness comes from, being able to just play that quick passing. It's something that we haven't done enough this season, is just trying to get the ball and play quickly. One of the things that we have been we've been quite criminal with really this season is keeping hold of the ball too much. Like Connor Roberts gets the ball and then it's right, okay, I'm going to look left, I'm going to look right. Who am I playing the ball to? By that point, you've allowed players to step onto you too much, and you've got to just kind of restart that whole, passing movement again. Yesterday, I thought that we as a team were just so good at getting the ball forward quickly and beating the lines and beating the press. And I thought we were really, really good at that. And he was a fundamental part of that. And especially with winning the ball back high as well. Like I say, go back to what I said at the start. They did not want the ball against us yesterday because we were in their face every single time. It's not just testament to the how well the defense is playing at the moment and how well set up Parker's got us defensively, but he was immense with that yesterday. Really, really good. He was winning the ball back a lot. That one-touch passing was brilliant. He was a pivotal part in that first goal, getting the ball through to Brownhill. It's his intelligence for such a young player. I agree he gives the ball away, but again, it's one of the things that we're giving other players time with, like the young players. We're giving other young players the opportunity and saying, he's a young player, it takes time. We did the same with Zaruri last time we were there. There were other players that gave the ball away a lot. Right now, he is, I completely agree with Chris. He's got his position set now for Sheffield United, which is a big game. And I think he definitely deserves to start that game. And this one will be a good test for him as well, because playing a team like Watford was not easy the other day, and going into another arguably much, much bigger game, as we seem to be, pulling away from the pack in the playoffs. We are, we are looking like a top 4 currently. So it's a big game, but hopefully he can rise to that challenge again, because yesterday was absolutely immense, and I'd love to see him perform like that quite consistently in a Burnley shirt.
Yeah, I think he's, as you've both said, he's made the position his own now for at least a Sheffield United match. But we'll see whether that goes on for the rest of the season, where he plays for the rest of the season. John Robertson says he gets into positions that no other player has the intelligence to get into. His speed of thought to make things happen He's rapid. Andy Duckworth says, baller, well coached as this fella says. Claret Owl says, Hannibal, best match for us. He covered 2 positions with that high press, and I don't think anyone else could have done that. His shirt to lose. Yeah, I think that's what the lads are on about when they're referencing his work off the ball and how good he is at pressing and things like that. Bob Devine says, even if he gives the ball away, he does what most of our other players don't, which is get it back. Hannibal Medri fans TV is in the chat. How are we doing? He says, we said it many times, just give him an opportunity and he will bring this energy which has been missing so far. And Andrew Turnwell says, Hannibal Medri's fans club are going to love your positivity about handball. Well, let us know if you're loving the positivity, Mr. Medri fans club, because, yeah, I agree. I thought he was absolutely fantastic yesterday. He might have given the ball away a little bit, but I've just been looking at his stats as Chris and Sam were talking. It's not horrendous. It's 71% pass success rate. And for somebody who's trying to make things happen and trying to pick out key passes, that's not awful. You tend to find that the best ones are always defenders because they're making easy subs. And again, with the best starting player with a pass success rate on the pitch was Maxime Esteve. But to be fair, he was doing a lot of diagonal pings, so he just weren't doing it side to side, to be fair. So I kind of just disprove my own theory there. Hannibal Medri fan club says, yes, we love it. He's on Facebook now. He started commenting on YouTube and then he's gone over to Facebook. I mean, keep it coming, mate. That counts as 2 views. So if anybody could just go from Facebook to YouTube, that'd be brilliant. Bob Devine. We'll end it on this one, Chris. Bob Devine says, are you converted now, Chris?
No. It's one game. It's one game. If you can string 3, 4, 5 together, then I'll happily hold my hands up and say, well, perhaps I was a bit too hasty, but he had a good performance at Bristol City first half earlier in the season, and then you follow it up with what he does. So one swallow don't make a summer. No more than one performance means you're going to win the league. You know what I mean? It's about consistency to me. Listen, he had a great game yesterday. That's all I'll say. He was great yesterday, but you've got to do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree. He's got to do it on a regular basis, but he's got to be given the chance to do it on a regular basis as well.
And he's earned the shirt. He's earned the chance to show it now.
Fingers crossed he is given that chance, because I don't want Parker to now start tinkering with the team and take him out for whatever reason. He should be playing at Sheffield United, and that's obviously a massive test in a big game in a what's always a decent atmosphere, a decent stadium. Someone did say in the chat earlier, who's going to Sheffield United? I'll be there, mate. I'm looking forward to it. I try and go every single year. Did miss it last year, which is typical. I've never actually seen us win. No, I have seen us win there. But I was there when we got beat 5-2. I was there when we got beat 3-0, and Neil Shipley scored a pinger from 20 yards out when he looked about 15 stone overweight. So I've been a few times. I'm looking forward to going again. Andrew, we'll come on to you about Hannibal. What were your thoughts on his performance yesterday, mate? It was nice to see him not finally put in, because he has put in a good performance before, but probably his best performance in a Burnley shirt yesterday, in a position that you probably didn't ever expect to see him playing.
No, I was like you guys. When I saw line up and saw his name, I thought, oh God, look, he's come off the bench, and in recent weeks, and I've said in my fan reactions and on here, he's come off the bench and given us a bit of energy which we've been missing. And we'll run the full length of the pitch to fight for the ball back, and then try and run the full length to get it back up there. And you can see the work rate and the effort, but he hasn't always had the technical ability to do that. And I think yesterday, it was his best game in a Burnley shirt. Like Sam said, you forget he's still only young. He's still only 21, but he's been around for that long. You forget how young he actually is. And I think, and like John said there in chat about Humphreys as well, I think Humphreys at left back yesterday really helped Hannibal on that wing, because it did allow him, because we were pushing so far forward, it allowed Hannibal to come in a little bit. So he was playing on that wing, but he was coming in quite a lot to almost be a left attacking midfielder. And I think that really helped his overall game. And his best game in a Burnley shirt, and it's his shirt to lose on Thursday, or hopefully keep.
I'm glad you remembered what day it was. I always forget what day it is over Christmas. So I just say Boxing Day, but evidently it's on Thursday. But as John Robertson says on screen there, says Bashir Humphreys, another good game. Joe Rowe was saying on comms that he's going to be a brilliant player. We need to remember his position would be where Esteve plays, so he's doing amazingly. I think the brilliant thing about Humphreys is how versatile he is over that back line. He can play literally anywhere on it, and I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic for us over the course, however long he's here. Medbury Fans Club is still chatting on Facebook. He says the atmosphere between the players is really good, especially Anthony and Hannibal. Just see how were they enjoying the first goal yesterday. Yeah, were it them two that did the chill guy celebration? I probably sound like a granddad now saying it how I said it, but doing it in that chill guy thing, which it's obviously a good relationship. But Andrew Turmo says Hannibal, tenacious battler, Barnes-esque, yes, loses possession, but relentlessly chases it back, disruptive to opposition teams' tactics as his wild card play frustrates them. Don't really disagree, but I think there's a bit more to him than just being a bit of a hothead, as we've spoken about. I do want to quickly come back, and Chris has basically taken on the role of TurfCast producer here, because I've been looking on SofaScore to try and find all these things. I can never know where to find it, but Chris's job is to find out all these stats. And it was Chris that sent us this thing that we put on earlier, and how the average positions was against Watford. And it's actually not too dissimilar, excuse me, in terms of position as it was against Swansea. But is Swansea another game that Lorenz started, Chris? I can't remember off the top of my head, but that might be No, it's not on there, is it? But it's interesting to see the differences in there. But obviously against Watford, we're more compact. But I think that one of the differences is that you pointed out in the chat is how high Brownhill is against Watford. If you look at him there against Watford, obviously Brownhill's number 8. Apologies if you're listening on the podcast. I guess this is pretty irrelevant to you. But put it this way, we've got like an average positions over the course of the game, stats, graph, whatever, on the screen. Brownhill's the second highest further player forward, and I think that's why he was so good yesterday. And this brings it on nicely. Let's talk about Josh Brownhill and how good he was yesterday, because he's one of them ones that does get some stick. Again, not all of it's justified. I have said, though, I think my best midfield, or I said it before the Watford game, my best midfield, even though he's done very well, will probably be without Brownhill in it, just because I was thinking, you know, you've got your Loren, your Fleming, your Sarmiento, you've got all these players. It's difficult to fit them in. But I think Scott Parker showed yesterday that you could just play them all. And just go back to the Swansea one. He's a little bit further back. So he obviously can't really affect the game as much. But I think the main point with that is there's 4 players further forward than him. Whereas on that one, he's the second highest player with only 11. Which one's number 11 off the top of my head? I'm rubbish with numbers. Yeah, that's it, Anthony. With only Anthony further forward. So, Chris, I'll come on to you, mate. We'll start off with Josh Brownhill. Absolutely fantastic game yesterday, wasn't it? Took his goal really, really well, and just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he was good yesterday. I think I've been one of the ones who, like you, I wouldn't play him like in a 2, like with Cullen. I wouldn't play him alongside Cullen. I wouldn't play him alongside Laurent, because I just don't think that's just not what he's best at. Brownhill's best attributes to me are like in the final third. It's putting the ball in there. It's making something happen around the box. He's one for getting forward rather than trying to dictate play from deep. And that's, to me, is why I wouldn't have played him. I think we've seen not Hannibal. That's just popped up. Laurent, Cullen, and Brownhill play together before. But I think, for me, whenever we've watched it, it's always been like Laurent's been that person, like going in the channels and like getting forward more so than Brownhill has. Yesterday, it looked like he had more license to get forward, and that suits him. That's like where he's down to the ground. That's what suits him. Like for me, I don't think it's that he's been like awful all season. He's got 8 goals already this season. Like, we're in December. He's scored more goals this season already than he has in any other in his career in a whole season. So
that's a stat. I didn't know that.
He is. Someone commented on his Instagram saying he's in the form of his life, and I'm like, is he? And then when I looked at that, perhaps maybe he is. He does bring goals to the team. In fairness to him, like, his numbers don't lie. He does bring that, but like, to me, he just has to play like that bit more advanced. I think yesterday when he had the 2 lads behind him who do the like dictating from deep and do the passing, and Laurent will break up play, and then Brownhill's got that license to go forward, you see a different player. But if you put Brownhill deeper and ask him to do that, then you don't get that same benefit from him. So, like, to me, I just think it was just the perfect storm. Like, when Brownhill gets his chance to go forward, that's him. But we're set behind him as well with 2 players who can like get us going. It just worked yesterday, and he definitely like reaped the rewards of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like sometimes he gets a bit of stick because he's played out of position, like I said, alongside Cullen or alongside Loren, and that's just not his best position. His best position is further forward up the pitch. But then at the minute, I think my argument used to always be, well, we've got Sarmiento or Fleming to potentially play in the 10. So where does Brownhill fit in? But again, he showed yesterday why there should be a space on the team for him, to be fair to him. Prove me wrong. Bob Devine says, I agree with Chris concerning Brownhill being miles better. Chris nearly had an heart attack then. Miles better in a forward position, false 9. Andy Duckworth says, it's not the best individuals, but seem to be the best setup. Def, see how it goes with this team at Chef. I think I got there in the end with that comment, Andy. But yeah, Sarmiento etc. from the bench, he goes on to say. But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, Chris. He's better further forward, and I think there is a place for him in this team with all these players on the pitch. I think Parker showed yesterday that you can find a way to have them all on. But again, we've still got the likes of Sarmiento to come in. And if Lyle Foster's back on Boxing Day, like the rumour would suggest, then does Lyle eventually, when he's ready to start, which obviously won't be on Boxing Day, does Lyle then go in the 9 and then Fleming drops in the 10? And then again, you're looking like, where do you put Brownhill? Because I'd rather have Brownhill on the bench than Brownhill further back, because that's not his best game for me. I sometimes think a game can pass him by when he's a little bit further back. But I feel like 3 managers now have all continuously played him out of position at some point. So he does get a bit of stick. And I do think he's a bit harsh. Andrew, I'll come to you next on Brownhill. What were your thoughts on his performance? And do you think there is a space for him in the team going forward? Because obviously some people will caveat that by saying, well, if he's not signing the contract, it might be worth looking at people that are dedicated to the club past this season. But I think at the minute, you've just got to have the best players on the pitch, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to play your best players, especially at this moment. Like, if we were serious about going up, you've got to play your best players. And, like, just to go back to him not playing, like, Deitch, Company, and Parker all playing him out of position, like, he clearly has something. He's our top goal scorer this season. I'm going to keep banging that drum. Like, he wants to get forward. He wants to attack. And he wants to score goals. Like, he's scored for us consistently for the last 4 years, 5 years, however long, he's been at the club. And you can see that he always wants to drive forward and wants to attack. So I think he's been played out of position because there's the place in the team. Like, they want to put him in the team, but he's had to play out of position to fit round other players. Whereas yesterday, I think Parker's almost gone, right, Brownhill plays there, we put the other players to fit round him. Like, he wouldn't have put Hannibal out wide if he weren't having Brownhill in the 10. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's almost fit the midfield round Brownhill rather than shove Brownhill where he can to fit round the rest of the team. And, it would probably his best game this season. But I think he's had a lot of stick this season that's not been really deserved. Like, I think he has been outstanding this season for us. All right, he does go missing in some games, but I don't think he's been the worst player, and I do think he has done really well for us this year. So, yeah, he has to be in the team for me. He has to be one of the first names on the team sheet for me.
Yeah, after yesterday, I'm inclined to agree. I don't see how you'd change the team at any point from yesterday. If I'm honest with you. Phil Wilcox says, evening lads, excellent performance. Enjoyed a home game for the first time in months. Hannibal Medry Fans Club says, a bit worried about our next games or really rough games. Yet we'll get into that later on. Brownhill to Celtic was a strong rumour yesterday, says Phil. I've not heard that one, if I'm honest with you, mate. I'll have to look out for that one. But Sam, I'll come to you next on Brownhill because you always get told you look like him. And obviously you've been banging this drum for a while and he's come in and had a great performance and kind of proven you right, to be fair. Obviously, I remember Kieran giving you a bit of stick on the last show. He doesn't seem to be here now, probably because Brown will have a good performance, but I thought I can't be bothered. I'm not going to show up because I can't slag him off. But yeah, absolutely fantastic yesterday and got the man of the match on the ground. Whether that was deserved or not, we'll get into that later. But yeah, it was brilliant yesterday, weren't it, Josh Brownhill?
Yeah, mate. I mean, it's I find situations like the Brownhill situation quite funny, really, because I mean it's the same reason why everyone's leaving Zayn Fleming alone in it. Really, he's playing out of position. So when Brownhill plays a bit deeper and doesn't have a good game, and then people are like, "Oh well, yeah, you should never be in the team." It's like, well, every time he's played in the 10 for Burnley, and every season that he's played in the 10 for Burnley, especially in the Championship, he's not only scored goals, but he's created. He's been one of the best players. Last time we were in the Championship, he was up for Championship Player of the Season. This season, he's got 8 goals and however many assists. When you put him in that 10 role, he's the best 10 in the league. There is not a conversation for any other player, even in our squad, with Fleming and Sarmiento. There is no doubt that Josh Brownhill is. You tell any of the 23 teams in this division that Josh Brownhill's available, they will snap your hand off to get Josh Brownhill in the team. So my issue with it's just I get really frustrated by it because like this is a bloke that not only statistically backs himself up, but he's also a player who clearly shows that he's taken to the town and what it means to be a Burnley player, and he's really thrown himself into the community, and he's always vocal on socials when we get a win, and he leads like a captain and leads by example, and he's taken on that captaincy fantastically, and then he gets dropped out of position, and people like then just go, oh well, he's just rubbish, and there's no place for him in the team. But then we argue for 5, 6, 7 other players that they'll be playing out of position. It's not fair. We need to see him in the natural. Like we're talking about Fleming as well. Like Fleming needs to play in that 10 role. You dropping Josh Brownhill to get Fleming in? Oh, sorry, like absolutely not. Like Fleming is a good player and he scored a worldie against Norwich, but there is no way you take Josh Brownhill out of that 10 role. Every time he plays there is brilliant. I think it's a fantastic thing as well with the rotation that we've got going back to all that side of things, that we are able to, if Brownhill does drop out of the team, we have a fantastic player sat there in Zian Fleming, who again has proven himself in this division, has now scored a really good goal for Burnley. He is playing out of position, but again, he's another player that you have to argue, like, and me and Andrew seem to have the same opinion on this. Like, just because you're playing out of position doesn't mean your first touch just is not there. Doesn't mean you can't link play up. Doesn't mean you can't pass the ball 5 yards. Like, I also feel like I'm starting to nitpick on Fleming now. I'm really genuinely not. I actually think Fleming's a great player, but like with the Brownhill situation, he gets so much stick. Yesterday, he comes in and has arguably one of his best performances of the season, playing in his natural position, gets a goal, gets an assist, and like there's no conversation about it. He is a fantastic player in this division. And I'm so pleased for him as well. Even if he doesn't sign the contract as well, he has done enough for Burnley, and he's done enough in a Burnley shirt to warrant him having at least having a nice send off. At least people being like, okay, yeah, he might not have been the greatest Premier League player in the world, but we signed bloody Mike Chazor for 18 million quid, and he's not played he played about 5 minutes. We bought Wout Weghorst, who came from Wolfsburg after being the 3rd top goal scorer in the Bundesliga across that era behind Lewandowski and whoever else. Like, we signed him and he was absolutely not at Burnley either. So, let's be honest, this is a signing that has worked across 3 managers, and 2 managers have decided that he's captain. So for me, honestly, unbelievable performance yesterday. Long may it continue. El Capitano, Josh Brownhill, love the bloke.
The president of the Josh Brownhill fan club wraps it up perfectly. But I do want to quickly end with this tweet. I've not realised how true it is, but I like it, so I'm using it. Jordan Rushworth, everyone's favourite Twitter claret, says, just realised Brownhill, a.k.a. the midfield problem to some fans, he says in brackets, has the joint 3rd most goal contributions in the Championship this season. Only Sainz at Norwich and Maja at West Brom have more than his 11 goal involvements. He's having a great season. I just want to quickly follow that up by, there is a comment underneath it saying you forgot Finn Anaz on that list, who has got more. So even if it is the 4th best in the Championship, that's still pretty good. So he's still having a very, very good season. So I do think he's had a decent season. I do think there's sometimes here we go. Here he is. I knew it. This is what an agenda looks like here. This is what an agenda looks like, Kieran. Can't believe you've been sat there waiting for that.
He waited for me to finish, and he's just jumped at me straight away. Honestly,
Having known Kieran in real life, I completely agree. I completely expected that, should I say? Although Clattenburg 8882 is winding you up, I think there. Andrew Turnbull says Brownhill, love him, true professional, and yes, best as 10. Monday says Fleming is not a real striker with a good number 9. Burnley could be first now in this league. I do agree with that. We've spoken about that before, mate. some people disagree, but I do agree. Rob Duckworth says, this talk of best 11 from fans, not from this esteemed panel. I like that, mate. Thank you very much. Misses the point of a team like us in the champ. Finishing with the right 11 to win games is just as important as the starting lineup. Sui's in the chat. Good to see you, mate. What happens when Foster is fit? Him up top and Brownhill in the 10. It's a good headache to have, I think. I think we've kind of half discussed it earlier, but I'm not really sure, mate. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to shoehorn all these players in, if we're honest. I'll just quickly read Kieran's agenda tweet out. He says he played well yesterday, but let's not go overboard. When it comes to the big games, he goes into hiding. Well, we've just had stats on there that might prove that otherwise. You can say he played well, which, to be fair, you just have. So I made myself look like an idiot. Still not as much of an idiot as yourself, though, Kieran. No, I'm only messing with you, mate. But anyway, I do want to move on.
Just to argue against that, though, sorry. Like, yesterday was a big game. Like, we were playing a team who are in the playoff fight. All right, they weren't in the playoffs, but yesterday was a big game. We're now playing teams that are expected to finish in the top positions. He played brilliant yesterday. He played like a leader. He played like a captain. He has done all season. Like, I don't want to start having a do with people and stuff, but he has done all season. Yesterday was a big game. He doesn't go missing in the big games. He just doesn't score screamers in the big games.
Let's see where he is. Kieran, we're not doing man of the match yet, mate. But I'm sure if even if Brownhill was better than that, you still wouldn't give it Brownhill. Yeah,
bloody, I'll give it to other team.
Yeah, but we'll see how he gets on against Sheffield United, because that's obviously the biggest game. But again, that's going to be difficult, and I'm not going to judge him just on the one game. He has to do it over the course of a few seasons, and so far this season, he's doing pretty well. Cullen as well. I felt like he played well yesterday, but because you're nodding, Sam, quite enthusiastically, so I'll come to you. Kieran, you're so fucking annoying, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll move on to Cullen. I thought he played well yesterday, but because there's players like your Brownhills and your Hannibals and Anthony's that have more goal involvements and do more things and are more energetic across the pitch, it goes unnoticed. But it's always good to see Cullen play well. And as we've all said on this panel before, this esteemed panel, as Rob said earlier, that when Cullen plays well, Burnley play well, and that's exactly what happened yesterday, weren't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not to take away from Cullen because he was class, but it's what happens when you play Josh Laurent. Like, Josh Laurent does everything that's the nitty-gritty stuff, and he allows other players to play it. He doesn't want to be flashy. He just wants to win the ball and play it left and right, and it gives Cullen the license to press the ball, because you know that Laurent's going to be literally sat right behind him, and he's going to sweep up anything that gets past him. They are such a complementary midfield duo, and it's exactly the duo that we asked for. Sorry, at the start of the season, we said a big midfielder and Cullen who can nip around. We've got that tall brute force midfielder who you can't win the ball off. He can win the ball in midfield. He doesn't want to do anything flashy, but he is still able to carry the ball because nobody can get near him. I just think, as good as Josh Cullen is, it's testament to us finally playing him with a midfield partner who absolutely suits Cullen's game. That, for me, is the midfield two. It should be unchanged for the rest of the season, just like we played Cullen and Burge for the majority of the season. Then we started to change it around and looked even worse last year. We literally that midfield duo is perfect, absolutely perfect. And I think for me, Scott Parker's figured out. He's slowly figuring out the partnerships. I think you know, we obviously like the idea of CJ Egan-Riley playing with Esteve at centre back because you know they complement each other, because Egan-Riley's they're both good ball players, but Egan-Riley's a little bit shorter, so Esteve can win all the headers and CJ can get the ball down and play a little bit more because you know he's a bit more versatile. And then now having the midfield set, I mean, that's such a big part of a team. It's the spine of your team, like Chris says, like, you know, and once we've got that sorted, and it's something that we've been crying out for and we've been saying for a long time on this podcast, especially since, you know, the first couple of weeks of the season, that we wanted to see the midfield be what we want the midfield to be. And for me, that midfield is Laurent and Cullen and Brownhill as the midfield three. That for me is perfect. I almost feel like the signings that we've made have almost yes, they've given Scott Parker a headache, but they've given us as fans a headache because we're obviously, everybody wants to see that new flashy thing that you buy. Like it's like when we get to Christmas, you're not going to want to wear your old t-shirt, are you? You're going to want to wear your new one. So when we buy these new players, we're looking at what we've had before, and you think, well, all right, then they might have done all right at some point, but Fleming has to play that 10 role because we've bought him and he's the marquee signing. Why? Don't change what doesn't need fixing. And for me, Brownhill, Laurent and Cullen is the midfield, and having those players like Fleming and Sarmiento and Hannibal as players who can come into the side and change it up based on how the game's going, I think that's the best position that we can be in. But having that midfield free, for me, sets us up for a really, really, really good push towards the second half of the season.
Yep, completely agree. Chris, I'll come to you. It's like Cullen and Laurent are like Iniesta and Busquets from back in the Barca days, isn't it? It just complements each other perfectly. Absolutely love them. I do think we found our midfield now, to be fair. Even though I did say this time before this week, I was saying a completely different midfield. So people who listen to this might think I'm a hypocrite, but it's just one of them things. You get new evidence in front of you and you change your mind. I do think we found our midfield. I think Cullen was absolutely fantastic yesterday, weren't he?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit me to the post, really. When you asked me for man of the match, mine was going to be Cullen. So you've kind of ruined that for me. But no, he was excellent. He was literally everywhere. He first into tackles. Like, for a small lad, he'll throw himself about, and that's what you need. Like, in this league, you can't get bullied because teams like Derby, Oxford, these small teams, even Watford, like Sissoko yesterday was trying to bully people about. Like, you can't get bullied in this league. Yeah. Laurent won't get bullied, and in fairness to Brown, like I'm not his biggest fan, but he won't get bullied, and Cullen won't get bullied, and that's what you need in this league. He was everywhere. He's flying into tackles, like he gets you playing. And like we said on here a couple of weeks ago, it seems to be that after them, that when we won 3 games in a week, whoever the last one was, I can't even remember, but like after that, Cullen had 3 like excellent games. You put in 3 good performances and you win, and you think, well, it's just it can't just be coincidence that he plays well, we play well. He dropped off for 2 games, and you're like, we've stagnated. And then yesterday he puts that in, and then we put that in. And I do think a lot of it comes down to him. But like Sam said, when you put Laurent in next to him, and them two just perfectly complement each other. Yeah, there was a time yesterday with Laurent, second half, the ball's bouncing around. It was up towards the Jimmy Mack end, and like Fleming's like pussyfooting his toe in, and you're like, someone just go in and take control of this situation here. Like, even centre halves are pussyfooting around. Laurent just barges in, wins it, comes out with it, keep it, and we're playing again. And you're like, that's what we need. Like, you need battlers in midfield, and that's what he is. The two of them together just work. And like Sam said, that's got to be, like, that's your basis to build on now. Spine of that team set. Once we get that striker in, which they're going to have to sign someone in January because Foster ain't the answer. But once we get that striker in there, we've got that spine of the team. If we can sort like our wide man out, like if we can get Koleosho firing, Anthony was good yesterday, but he's got to do it consistent. Like, we've got Sarmiento, Hannibal's doing well off the left. Like, we've got a good team, but it's finding that consistency. That's been the biggest issue for us. Probably we've put 1 good performance in and then dropped off. But we need to start showing it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree. And to be fair, as annoying as Kieran is, I do agree with Brownhill. He's got to show it on consistent, as does Anthony, as does Hannibal, as do all these players that were good yesterday. We as a team have to be more consistent. But just to go back to a poll I put up ages ago when we were talking about Hannibal, and I completely forgot about it. I put up a poll on YouTube saying, were you happy with Hannibal's performance yesterday? 100% of people have voted yes. And to say there was a Leeds fan giving it big and in the chat earlier, I'm surprised that it's 100%. Just thought someone would be a dick and vote no for it. But it's 100% yes. I've just started a new poll now on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can vote. Who was your man of the match yesterday? Was it Hannibal, Brownhill, Cullen, or Anthony? Before I ask the lads, get your votes in and obviously put the comments in. I will answer it first, actually, this time. I'm going to go with Hannibal. Hannibal's my man of the match yesterday. I thought he was fantastic. I know some people might say Brownhill because he obviously got the goal and played well, and Cullen made us tick, and Anthony as well did quite well. But for me, Hannibal, he was absolutely everywhere. Especially to say he was played out of position. Well, not out of position, but in a position that a few people, like myself, raised our eyebrows at. It was very interesting to see him play well. And it's good to have him there as an option as well. Like, he can potentially play wide left, or he could potentially play in like an 8 role or something like that. But I do feel like having him out on the left might be good. Just going back to the average positions thing that we were showing earlier as well. I'm not going to put it back up again, but he was quite left, but he was like central left. So it's obviously not being on the left consistently and coming in, kind of like the Scott Arfield role from back in the day, sort of playing out wide and coming in. To be fair, Russell Mercer says Cullen. So Roberts or Cullen, to be fair. So interesting on that one. Andrew, I'll come to you first. Your man of the match, please, from yesterday.
Mine's actually Humphreys. I thought he did really, really well. I thought he did, defensively, he showed why he's an under-21 international, but going forward as well, I think he has had a bit of stick about going forward because he's not as attacking as Perez. But I feel like yesterday, especially when you remember he's playing out of position, like he's not a left back, he's a left centre back, or a left-footed centre back, should I say, and he was playing out of position, but him getting forward allowed Hannibal to have such a good game because it did allow for him to move infield when he needed to. And I thought them two together played really, really well. So, yeah, mine's Humphreys, but Hannibal, Brownhill, Cullen, it could be any of them. They all did really, really well.
Yeah, to be fair, that is a left field shout, but John has come in the comments and said, good shout. This is why I don't tend to do I used to do the polls on Twitter, like the man of the match polls, like the club do now. But you can only put 4 people on there, and you always just end up getting shit off somebody saying, can't believe you didn't pick this guy, can't believe you didn't pick that guy. So as soon as I put a poll out on YouTube, I've got somebody saying Connor Roberts in the chat, and I've got you now saying Humphreys. But obviously, if you want to vote on the poll, you can. The options are Hannibal, Cullen, Brownhill or Antoinette. We're currently a bit of a landslide for Hannibal at 48%. He did win the club one yesterday, but on the match, Brownhill won it, and on who scored, Jadon Anthony won it, funnily enough. I'll come to you, Chris, next. Your man of the match, please, for Burnley's win at Turf Moor against Watford.
Josh Cullen, just for the same reasons I've given before. I just think when he plays well, we play well. He just gets us moving. He was everywhere yesterday, and I do think he was pretty much like a big part of the success yesterday. Probably, it's hard, and to pick one. It could have been any one of 3, 4, 5 players probably, but like Cullen just edges it for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Ashley Barnes says definitely Cullen for me. Bell Differs says Humphreys for me. Must have Virgo or something whenever he gets in the air. He's lost. A big shout for Trafford. Kept us in it at one point, says Claret Al. Didn't really have too much to do until we were 2-0 up, if I remember rightly. But he did make a couple of good saves. And I have put a post up about him. I thought he was fantastic yesterday. He looks very confident now. That's what I like about Trafford. He doesn't look like a rabbit in headlights like he did last season. I thought he was brilliant. Cullen says Claret Blue 1882. Hannibal, minute late in front of Cullen. I think he's on about the poll there, if I'm honest with you. Cullen, for me, says Phil. Bob Devine says Humphreys is definitely getting more confident going forward. Watford's keeper man of the match, says Ashley Barnes. I didn't think he was that bad. I know he probably should have done better with the first. But it's probably because he's hit it down as Anthony and it's bounced up at him. Hannibal, hands down, no doubt who Sam's is, says Kieran is in for you today, mate, as he is every day. A new name says for me it was Cullen ignoring the goals. But I'll come to you next then, Sam. Is it Brownhill?
If I was going to try and annoy Kieran, yeah. No, to be fair, I did want to mention Trafford as well. I think even though, like you've said there as well, you have summed it up perfectly. He didn't have a right lot to do, but he's definitely not in for a shout with man of the match really, but had another good performance, and showing why people are back in for him. Big clubs want him, so I think it's fair to say he's definitely a player that's improved this season under a manager that can see the qualities that he has and doesn't play him in a Premier League season with the top strikers shooting at him all the time. But for me, it would probably be Humphreys as well. I think he's just come into his own as well. I think his versatility in the team is really good. I think one of the things that I'd say about that left-hand side is I think he works perfectly there. I think his versatility across the back four is really good as well. It's a good asset to have from a centre half. I think he comes as well from this young generation of centre halves and defenders who can play across the back four and are ball playing defenders. So I think he, I think he's doing a really, really good job at that. I think one of the other things as well is it's like with regards to Pires as well. Like Pires, for me, was a company signing in a Scott Parker team. Like he was like the first player who came through the door to fit the way that we play. And for the first 2 games, it seemed like it worked because we had all the attacking threat, in the world. And then now that the system's changed, I just think he just doesn't fit that system anymore. I think he's too attacking. I don't think he's got the defensive know-how to fit into a Scott Parker system. So I 100% think Humphreys is the right way to go on that left-hand side, and long may performances like that continue.
Yeah, fair enough. Interesting that, because I did think Humphreys played well, so it's interesting to see you two go for him. But I tend to always go for the more creative players. I think that's just me. Graham Verso though says, hope this finally gets the knockers off Scott's back. Now, to be fair, Graham, you never saw that from any of us. Dan did come on once, and not Dan from Turf Morehouse, the other Dan that kind of used to do our TikTok, but don't do it so much anymore. He came on and sort of like said he wanted him out not long ago. I think it was after that Millwall game, which I was surprised to see. There were a few people in the chat as well, to be fair, and a lot of noise on Twitter and Facebook, as I'm sure you saw, Graham, having one of the Facebook pages yourself. But I think a lot of people now, even the most negative of fans, yes, Martin Stevenson and Russ, I've seen you in the chat as well. I'm talking to you boys. Can't really be giving him too much stick now. Where we are in the league at the minute, we're doing very, very well. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to look at the league table. I'm going to have a look at where we are, how we're doing, and then look at some of the next fixtures, because we have got a tough month as we come up to the Christmas period. Well, obviously, we're into Christmas now, but obviously after that, we've got Sheffield United, then Middlesbrough, and not long after that, we've got Blackburn as well. So it is going to be a tough run of fixtures. And if we can still be in and around that area when we finish these fixtures, then we should be within a shout of doing quite well. I don't know why it's looking so thin like that. That's annoying. I've tried to bring the league table up on your screen there, but it looks awfully small. I'm not sure why it's doing it like that. But I'm not sure how well you can see it. I can't see it too well. But obviously, Sheffield United top on 48 points. Play them next, win that. That gap's down to 1 point. Leeds, obviously above us at the minute as well, just 1 point ahead of us. Then Burnley in third, then Sunderland, then all the way down in fifth. They were going on about how they were only 1 point behind us last week. Now it's a massive 7 points. Be embarrassed to be putting tweets like that up just a week later to see us so far ahead of them. Is lowly Blackburn Rovers, who lost out to Millwall the other day. Then you've got Middlesbrough, West Brom, and Watford, who were apparently the worst team to come to Turf Moor this season, all the way down in seventh. But Sam, I'll come to you first. Are you happy with where we are in the league right now?
You've got to be, mate, aren't you, really?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, I feel like I always go back to the negatives of the summer transfer window and the turmoil that the club was in, because it was like, we were in a state of disarray, really, from fans to board to players. We didn't have a clue what was going on. Scott Parker's come in, and it's took a while. We have to admit that. There's some games, in those last few games where we haven't. Like Derby, for example, and Oxford, and Oxford went to Ellen Road the other day and got absolutely battered. And that's what we should have been doing to teams like that. But it's taken time, and Scott Parker has us in third place, 1 point behind second, 7 points ahead of fifth. We are in a very, very good position, and he's steadied what was a rocky ship at one point. And I think, long may it continue on this kind of course, because I think what he's done in comparison to other managers in the league, in my opinion, I think he needs so much credit for that, because there's not many other teams in that. The only other team you could possibly say it for is Sheffield United, because they went through a spell of selling the best players, but they reinvested well as well. Like, there are not many other teams in this division who had to get rid of their entire team and sort out, a completely new 11. Leeds got rid of Somerville, and who else? They got rid of Somerville and Archie Gray, who played one season at right back. I can't tell you one team that's ever missed a right back. Like, except for us where we missed a left back, but that's because we played with centre halves and goalkeepers at left back. But he deserves so much credit for where we are, and I think, you know, getting results now, and I think if you look at the bigger picture as well, I think if you go to where we are now with the fact that we are one of the best defensive units in the league, I just think, you know, that's down. Okay, his style of play might not be to everybody's taste, but we could be the complete opposite way. We could not score goals and ship goals as well. At least, you know, some games we don't score, but we don't concede them either. So, I'm so pleased. I think if we have a good January transfer window as well, and we bring in a striker, because I completely agree with Chris. I've fully jumped on that ship now that Lyle Foster's not that guy. He's not the guy that we can consistently say is going to be Burnley's number 9 every single week and he's going to be scoring goals. We need to go out and buy a proper number 9. For me, I hope it's not Ollie McBurney, just because, again, he is a good goal scorer. I just don't think he fits where we are now. I've seen a couple of shouts for Louis Barry as well, and whilst he's doing well in League One, am I right in saying Stockport in League One? Yeah, he's having a good season in League One. For me, it's just another headache for Parker to have, because all right, he's a striker, but he's a small, nippy striker who, you know, likes to get the ball and run at goal and that type of thing. And I just feel like fitting him into the side doesn't necessarily fit with us either. I'm loving the shouts for Tom Cannon, by the way. I think that is an absolutely brilliant sign. I mean, if it was possible, I think if we could get him, he's on loan at Stoke now. If he gets recalled and we either sign him permanently or he has a loan to us, I think he would be absolutely perfect. I think there's a reason why he's not firing at the moment, and that's because he's in a team that don't create very much and are quite low down in the table. I think if we can get a couple of players into, you know, boost where we are, then I think the sky's the limit this season. I think we can really push on and really pull away. I'm not getting drawn into that Callum Lang thing as well, because he scored 4 goals in one game. Like, that's half of his statistics across the season. So, yeah.
To be fair to Bell Dippers, he's been banging that drum throughout the entire show.
I felt like we needed to say something about it because I felt really unfair that he's kept putting it. But yeah, I can't necessarily jump on stuff like that just because he scored 4 goals against Coventry. Like, you know, if you look at his statistics across the season, 50% of them are in one game. Like, yeah.
Do we think there'll be any outgoings in January? Says Ashley Barnes, the Ashley Barnes. I think there will be, but I don't think we need to worry. There's not going to be any first teamers going out the door unless an offer comes in that blows it out the water. Rob Duckworth says, fair play to Sheffield United so far. Their pie and peas recruitment's good for getting out of the champ and record low points total in the Prem. No thanks to McBurney. Yeah, you know what? I would. It's controversial, but I don't mind McBurney too much. I wouldn't have him as a starting number 9 for us, but I think is he better than Jay at this stage? Probably, yeah. Is he better? I'm not sure if he's better than Lyle or not. I'd rather have Lyle, I think, there than him. But I think he's better than what we've got at the minute. I think he'd be good backup, but I wouldn't want to be pushing the boat out for getting him. Chris, I'll come to you next. And obviously, we did start talking about Scott Parker before we kind of went off on a tangent because people were putting suggestions about players that we should sign in January in the chat. But you were quite... not critical. I think you were quite sort of like defensive of him for a while. Then I think there was one particular game. It might have been that Swansea home game, actually, because I seem to remember the second tier lads actually put it up on Twitter, didn't they? Where you just said, I can't defend him anymore. This style of play is awful. How are you feeling on the Scott Parker situation? Now, obviously, I know yesterday was good, but is it going to be like that every week? We don't know. We'll have to find out over the next few weeks. But obviously, positive signs. So you must be happy with what we've done recently.
Yeah, I think it's been since that Swansea game, since we've come back from that international break, it's been more like good than bad. I don't think you can really say we've had apart from maybe the first half at Norwich and the Derby game. Since we come back, I don't think you can say, God, we've been stinking the place out like 3 games in a row. Like before that, we were. Yeah. So, listen, he has gone away and changed things. He does still need a striker. But I think these games we've got coming up, someone said it in the chat before, and I said it back in August when before we played Leeds, like the games that suit him, like he likes going to into these bigger games where he can set up tactically. And Sam touched on it before. Like, he's got plans for different games. Like, he'll set up this way against the back three, or he'll set up this way against the back four. Like that. He's clever tactically, and he likes to set up certain ways for certain games, and he's good like that. So I think these games almost suit us. And then when we come out the back, if we're still in touch, we've got good games. I think once we get like Sunderland, Leeds, Blackburn, Borough, Sheffield once, like, we've got a pretty good run of fixtures, and we'll have played most of the top teams twice. So like, we've got a good run of games. But just like going back to like, and I'm going to divulge again here, but like the striker stuff, like McBurney and Cannons and stuff like that. One name I saw the other day, and I thought, you know what, he'd actually be all right for us. Iheanacho's leaving Sevilla apparently in January, sorry. And West Brom and Watford want him. I thought, do you know, when I thought about it, I was like, do you know what, Iheanacho, I actually think Iheanacho would do for us. Don't know what like anyone else thinks, but I actually think Iheanacho would be good. Like, go back to goal striker. He's been here. There's no like adaptation process. We're coming over. I think Iheanacho would suit us if we could get him on loan. You know, he's going to be a big earner, so we're not probably going to sign him. I don't think we've got any money anyway. But if we could get Iheanacho on loan from Sevilla for 6 months, I think we'd be all right with it.
I mean, I won't mind him on loan, like you said, for 6 months. He hasn't done too well, like you said, at Sevilla since he's gone. Only played 8 times, not scoring, but he did very well at Leicester. As kind of like not a bit part player, but he weren't starting every single week, was he? So he's okay, to be fair. I'd definitely look at him maybe as a loan player. When you look at how Hull have literally crumbled to nothing, that open goal miss from Anthony in injury time, it annoys me more each day. You know what, John? It's weird you mentioned that, because I was talking about that today to somebody at work from Hull. Like, the draw at Hull and the open miss, the perfectly good goal that was chalked off against West Brom. So I know you can caveat that by saying, look at the goal against Blackburn and Preston that they should have scored, to be fair. But it's these fine margins that Dyche used to always talk about, and so does Parker as well, to be fair. But we could easily be a lot higher up the table and stuff like that, but we probably should have put Hull to the sword. But as Chris said, then we were stinking a lot of places out week in, week out at that point. Andrew, I'll come to you. How are you feeling now on where Burnley are in the league and Scott Parker as manager and how we are progressing week in, week out?
I'm happy, mate. At the start of the season, I said we'd finish third, so we're where I predicted at the minute. So, yeah, I'm happy. I think if we can get ourselves some results over the next 3 or 4 games and we keep ourselves in it, I think we've got a really good chance of even automatics come end of the season. But it's these next 4 or 5 games that are sort of going to define the season, I think, for me. And look, then there's no easy games in this league, like we all know that. And one of the reasons we all like the Championship is because anyone can beat anyone on the day. But yeah, I'm really happy, and Parker's done well. Like Sam said, we had a really shit summer with the transfer window. Like, he literally had a squad of players in front of him that he thought he was going to get to play with for the season, and they've all been sold off. We're third in the league with only 9 goals conceded. We've not really had a striker play all season. Like, we all know that we need a striker. We've mixed it up. Like, we still don't know our best 11. Even us 4 sitting here now still don't know what our best 11 is. All right, we played amazing yesterday, but would that be your starting 11 for the rest of the season? Like, we still don't know it. So it's difficult for Parker to know it. And we're coming towards Christmas and we're third in the league after the shit that you had to put up with. And like, I know people don't like it when you go back and you compare this season to the company season, but at this point in the company season, we'd only just beaten Blackburn and like just come back from international break, and I think we'd beaten QPR then. And you know, this is when our season really kick-started. And the same under Dyche. The last time we came up before company, like, we got battered by Hull on Boxing Day and then went 23 games unbeaten.
That were all 50 defeat that season. Like, that were all 50 defeat that season.
Yeah.
But then we
went 23 games unbeaten. Yeah. So this is like when our season's the last 2 times in the Championship have kicked on from. So these 4 or 5 games will define the season. But I honestly think we'll start to kick on from here now.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I will start to wrap up the show, but before I do, Andrew's mentioned these next 4 fixtures there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the fixtures. I'm going to go through the boys. You let us know in the comments how many points you think that we will get in these next 4 fixtures. Just before I do that, actually, I do want to quickly say the man of the match poll on YouTube has now finished. Anthony got 2%, Cullen got 16%, Brownhill got 27%, and Hannibal was voted the man of the match by our YouTube viewers on today's stream. I'm going to try and remember to do this every week. I'll probably forget next week. But he was the man of the match on the YouTube stream. But given obviously by the lads on the panel, it was Humphreys. Anyway, let's get into the fixtures then. Let me know how many points you think we get in the next 4 games. Rube Chambers says 12 points. Love the optimism, mate. I would absolutely rip both of your arms off right now for that. Obviously, I would. But for me, Sheffield United next. Take a draw there. Middlesbrough, if we're drawing at Sheffield United, and you've probably got to follow it up with a win at Middlesbrough. Look, I know it's difficult when teams come to the turf. When teams come to the turf and just sit back, as I suspect Stoke will do. I don't think any of the other teams will do that. Obviously, there's 3 away games there and 1 home game. I don't think any of the away games do that. But we have struggled throughout the season to break teams down. So it's going to be interesting to see how we get on against Stoke. But I went to the game at the Bet365 against Stoke, and we were so much better than them in that second half. So I would hopefully be able to see us do that again. We should be beating them. And nothing other than a win against Blackburn. I mean, say that, just don't lose. just don't lose. But I do think we are good enough to beat them when we play like we did yesterday. So for me, I'm going to guess at draw, win. No, draw, win. Draw, win. And I am being optimistic there. I appreciate I'm being optimistic. If we can come out of these next 4 games with 2 wins and avoiding defeat, I think we have done very, 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 very well. 8 points, says Claret Al, 2 wins and 2 draws. Pace will bring Teller back on loan, says Scott O'Sullivan. No chance, mate. I think people need to stop this Teller dream. It is not happening. Clarence 1882 says draw, win, 8 points. Exactly the same as me. Scott O'Sullivan then goes on to say 8 points. Kieran Phillips says 6 points, a point at each of the away games and beat Stoke. And that's exactly what Russell says. Draw, win, draw. And that's exactly what Phil says. Draw, win, draw for me. 10 points, says Ashley Barnes. Where's the one we're not winning, Ashley? Where's the one we're not winning? Probably Sheffield United. And 8 points, says Phil. Draw, win. Sam, what are your thoughts on that run of fixtures, please, mate? How many points do you think we'll get?
I think 8 would be ideal. I think draw with Sheffield United, beat Borough and Stoke, and draw with them lot. I'd like to think that we beat them lot, but I think it's one of the harder pills to swallow this season is that they're actually playing some decent football. So I can imagine going to Deadwood won't be anything like we've experienced for a few seasons. But I'd like to think that we beat them. So. But for me, I'd say I'd be happy with 8, but I'd like to see 10.
Fair enough.
That's right,
John Paynes. Yeah. John Payne says, lose, but New Year spirit gifts them back. Fair enough. Chris, we'll come to you next, please, mate. Tough run of fixtures probably does define our season. We could easily lose 3 out of them next 4 games if Burnley don't show up in some games. Some tough away fixtures there. What are you thinking we'll get? How are you looking forward to these next 4 fixtures?
I've got 7. I don't want to be negative, but I do think Sheffield United will beat them on Boxing Day. I do think Sheffield will beat them. I think they'll win at Middlesbrough. Borough's home form's really indifferent. Blackburn went there and won a couple of weeks ago, so they can't be that good. And I think Parker will learn from the last game, like the shortcomings from the last game. I think Parker will learn. So to play him again so soon, I think might benefit us. They've got to beat Stoke, haven't they? Like
yeah, they have to.
You've got to beat Stoke, and then Blackburn's. It's a difficult it's the derby game and all that jazz. Plus, they're actually a decent side. I think a draw. 7 points for me.
Fair enough. You won't catch me saying they're a decent side, but what I will say is John Eustace has done a very good job, and if somebody could come and take him away from them, that would be absolutely fantastic. Andrew, coming up to you next, please, mate. How many points do you think we'll get over these next 4 games?
I'm agreeing with Chris with 7. I agree that don't want to be negative, but I do think Sheffield United will beat us on Boxing Day.
I mean, 7's not a bad run. 7's not bad from this run of fixtures, so I don't think you two are being negative. I don't think it's horrendous, that, you know.
No, I just think on Boxing Day, Sheffield United will have too much for us. I think we'll get a point. We'll get a point against Borough. We're going to beat Stoke like we have to beat Stoke. And then I can't say anything other than us beating them. I know that they've done okay this season. They've not fallen off completely yet. Exactly. But I can't sit here in all good faith, especially, at Christmas, and say that they're going to get anything off us. So yeah, we'll get all 3 points there.
Well, fingers crossed. I'll probably settle right now for draw, win. I would definitely settle for that. I think that wouldn't be a bad return as well over them fixtures. But yeah, a tough run of fixtures. Then obviously it doesn't get much easier after that as well. We have, I know, after the Reading game, which is in the cup, we do have some tough fixtures coming up. Leeds being one of them. So again, at the end of January, if we are still within touching distance and we made a couple of decent signings, which will probably be on loan to be fair, but it doesn't matter. Some decent signings coming in. Then hopefully we'll be there or thereabouts and we can kick on. Sui says squad rotation going to be through the roof, by the way, so I've got to consider that. Yeah, fair point. Had to go off with about 12 to play. He's talking about Lewis Travis, by the way. I did put the comment up earlier. John Robertson says Lewis Travis went off with a hamstring injury yesterday. He's their captain. Will be interesting to check in on his fixtures. And he goes on to say he had to go off with 12 minutes to play. The Horse Fiddlers has used their sub, so Millwall through the proverbial sink at Rovers and then got the injury time. I didn't know that, mate. That obviously explains why they scored so late on, to be fair to Blackburn. They're probably tired. Daz Moggy says, Happy Christmas, Joe, and the TurfCast team. Have a good one, lads. Thank you for that, Daz. Really appreciate it. We will end it there. Have a Merry Christmas. Hope you all have a really good Christmas. Hope Santa brings you everything that you've asked for. Hope you have a really good time with your families and you properly enjoy it. Same goes to you boys as well. Thank you for all your help over the course of this year, lads. I do appreciate it. It would just be a boring channel if it were just me chatting. Although I do want to quickly come on to this comment about from Rube. Come on, guys. Why so much negativity? We've got the best defence record. Have lots of guys that can score. I don't think it's been any negativity, mate. I just think maybe because we're not seeing 12 points like you're seeing it as negativity. I don't think that's negativity. I think 7 points, like Chris and Andrew have said, would be a decent return in them games. It's not negativity at all. But yeah, just go back to that. Thank you, lads, for all your help over the course of the year. I'm sure I'll see you all between now and the end of the year as well. I'll have to be in touch about Boxing Day streams and stuff like that. It's going to be hard to get them all in, so we might not see some of the lads for a while, but we'll see. We'll see what everyone's doing over the next few weeks. There will be a Sheffield United pre-game show. Whether there's a full-time show, so I've only got the 3 days off work. I'm off Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, then I'm straight back in, and I'm at Sheffield United. So if I do a stream, I have to either do it after work or I have to do it as soon as I get back from Sheffield United on Thursday, as Andrew very reliably informed me. I might be able to do it on Friday night, actually, to be fair, just looking at this. But actually, maybe not, because that's a tough shift, that one, so I'll be knackered. But anyway, enough of me digressing. But we will be a pre-game show. There'll definitely be a pre-game show. I've been in touch with Jimmy from Blades Ramble. He's a good lad. He's Jimmy. I like having him on the channel. So he's definitely coming on, hopefully tomorrow. So we get it done before Christmas Eve and stuff. But yeah, cheers, Sam, for coming on the show. Always good to have you back. Again, same to you, Chris, as well. Always good. Always buzzing to see you on as well, especially with the new baby. I know it's difficult. And Andrew's always here, but it's always good to see Andrew's face. So, lads, thank you. If you've joined the stream late, I know some people do say it, but nobody said it this week, and you want to catch up, then obviously as soon as I press end stream, the video does stay on Facebook and YouTube for you to watch back on demand, and the podcast will be up pretty much instantly. So if you are driving to work tomorrow, like me, then you can listen to us on your way to, I would say, work, school, or college, and you definitely won't be driving to school or college. If you just want to listen while you're at home having a day off, then feel free. But thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening. Big thank you to the panel for coming on as usual. And we will see you next time.